Welcome to the Evolved Caveman, where men learn to be successful and happy with your host, Dr. John Schinnerer, as he shares the most impactful ideas and practices for you to get the most from your relationships, your work, and from your life. Now here's Dr. John.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. John back with the latest episode of the Evolved Caveman. And today I'm really psyched to have with me my good friend, Luis Noriega. And let me get to Luis's bio here. Luis Noriega is a leadership coach and online trainer. He holds a BA in economics from UCLA, and has taken marketing business courses at Stanford. It's not Cal, but okay. His journey started after he left a cushy six-figure tech sales role in Silicon Valley to pursue his passion of mentoring and guiding people through personal and professional growth. He's certified under Tony Robbins' coaching methodology, and he's attended more than 10 conferences and trainings in the last 2.5 years. His ultimate purpose is to help create 1 million leaders in his lifetime with a specific focus on next-gen leaders and youth empowerment. And today we're talking about some of the mindsets that get in the way of making money. And I got to say, I was taking a mastermind course with Luis, several months ago, and I was really taken with the power of this material in particular. So I asked Luis to come on and share some of this information with the listeners. So Luis, thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. How you doing?
Yeah, I know. Well, first of all, thank you for hosting me, and I'm doing great, man. It's been a rough week. There's been some turbulence in terms of some of the people I know that were going through some tough times, but I think that's the reality of things, right? And it's perfect it goes in line with this episode because especially with social media nowadays, right? We tend to see people's highlight reels and the best of the best, but I think this topic is very important because it gets down to like the authenticity of each and every one of us. There are these blocks that hold us back from either having a good life or making more than enough money because of these limiting beliefs or these subconscious thoughts that go on in our head.
Yeah, when we were going through this in the mastermind, I was like, oh shit, like I've seen that in me before. Oh wait, I have that one right now. And so I think they're really good to bring to conscious awareness so you can begin to catch them and challenge them. So let's get into it. So what is a money mindset?
Yeah, so when it comes to money mindset, it's really your thoughts, your beliefs, your values, and even rules around money. And even on a deeper level, also, I like to call it a money mindset, but also an abundant mindset, right? Because those go hand in hand, and we'll get deeper into it. But when we talk about money mindset, it's what do you feel when people start talking about money? Right? Do you get excited? Like, okay, or is it like, I've been taught not to talk about money, or, these beliefs start to come up, and those are the ones that can hold us back unconsciously. But we'll get into that. But yeah, when we refer to money mindset, it's about your values and beliefs around money.
And so your sweet spot is young entrepreneurs. So how do you see this money mindset playing out, and how is it important for these young entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it's very important because when you're starting off, right, and you think, well, for instance, I'll give you my story. So when I started off, I was like, well, I have experience in sales and business through my experience with my family-owned businesses and stuff like that. So I thought, I was like, I'm good. I'm going to crush this and stuff like that. But little do you know, and this is what happens, is that as you're getting your feet wet with business, you'll start to hit certain hurdles, and then you'll be like, why? Why am I struggling to close this sale? Or when it comes down to asking for the close or giving the price, why do I struggle with that? Right. And so a lot of these young entrepreneurs are feeling this way as well, because they're like, I didn't know I had this challenge until they're in it and they have to pitch or they have to ask for money or talk about money or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting just being in, the realm of psychology and working with a lot of therapists and psychologists. I see this with young therapists and psychologists where when they start out, the fees that they charge are way too low, in my opinion. Like I've seen some people charge $80 an hour.
Yeah.
Or, $120 an hour. And I remember when my girlfriend Jory started out, and this was, 3-4 years ago, I was like, start high. Regardless of wherever you start, you're only going to be able to bump it up 5 or 10% per year. So if you start high, you're going to naturally build in just more wealth for you down the road.
Right.
But it's hard to do when you're coming out of school because it does tie into self-worth. So speak a little bit of that, would you?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can imagine, right, if you're coming out of a training or school or some form of education, there's a part of you that feels I'm not ready. And when
I don't know enough or I'm not worthy.
Yeah. And I was going to lead to when there's a part of you that feels I'm not ready, then you start going down this trail of, am I good enough? What if I'm not? What happens if they don't value it and stuff like that? And so that's why this whole concept of charging money, asking for the sale, and anything revolving around money has to do eventually on a deeper level, as you mentioned, with your self-worth, because then you'll start to question, is this worth it? One of the biggest impacts, or here's a few biggest impacts when it comes to money mindset, right? And the first one, obviously, if you're approaching a program or product that you're selling from a limited standpoint, from a scarcity-based standpoint, then you're not going to charge as much. And if you don't charge as much, obviously, then that means you're not going to make enough money that maybe you need to grow your business or things like that. But even on another level, let's say that you're charging a fair price, but you struggle with talking about money because you've been raised maybe in a family that was a rule, or maybe in a corporation or a system where you feel that you shouldn't talk about money at all. And so now that you are a business owner of sorts and you have to step up and talk about your program and your pricing, it feels very weird. And so what happens there, as you can imagine, you'll miss out on deals. More importantly, you'll miss out on the impact. If we're talking about psychologists or coaches or these people that are healing others, then you're missing out on the impact. So we'll get into some of the more positive reframes of some of these money mindsets. But as you can imagine, you're going to be missing out on a lot if you don't become aware, as you mentioned, as you did when we did this, of some of these thoughts.
It's interesting looking back at my family of origin. So my dad was a dentist. He did very well. But money was like, you just didn't talk about money in my family unless money was tight. And then it was like, hey, everyone, money's tight. We're going to pull in, we're going to limit spending for a little bit. And it was like, oh, okay, whatever. As a kid, it was just like, okay. But it led to this belief in me. And I don't know if it was based on anything really, but to talk about money is bad. It's something you just don't do. It's not humble. It's not modest. And so that was kind of interesting to look back and just think, what were some of the beliefs that I grew up with?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of those other ones are like, you can't be quote unquote rich or wealthy and humble, or you can't be rich and spiritual at the same time.
Yeah, in order to be spiritual, I must be poor, or I can't make money.
Right. And so it's like as I'm sharing, when I began this journey as a business owner, I started to explore those beliefs because I was like, well, why can't I have best of both worlds, right? And so again, that whole conflict arose because of the beliefs that we grew up in, and likewise. But it's interesting that you know that in your family structure, I'm sure as other people as well, even mine, when it came to money, okay, don't talk about it. But then when you do talk about it, it's when it's scarce. Right. So then it automatically instills, it's like either we don't talk about it, or when we do, it's to complain that money doesn't grow on trees, or that there's not enough to go around. Or another really, really insightful one is when you compare yourself to others, like, oh, look at the Jones, right? Or look at my in-laws, or look at so-and-so. And
because the mind works by comparison. I mean, that's one of the strongest ways that the mind works. And we're looking up the ladder at someone got a cooler car. He's got a bigger biceps. That guy's got a bigger house. He makes more money. So we always feel less than by comparison. But back to your point, in my family of origin, I think when you talk about money only when it's scarce, it does, develop that scarcity mindset around money.
There we go.
Abundance mindset. And just that simple shift in awareness is massive.
Right. It's absolutely huge, because then you can start to explore what other areas in your life outside of your business are you operating from a scarcity mindset. Maybe it's in the relationship, right, with your business partner or significant other. Am I holding back, or am I just giving abundantly? Am I giving?
For example, I only have so much love to give.
Right.
It's a limited resource, so I got to meet it out kind of carefully.
Right. And so that's the important part of it is is it actually a limited resource, this thing that we're talking about, whether it's energy or whether it's money or whether it's love or whether it's whatever it is. And if you actually reframe it and switch it and start to explore, you'll realize that there's a lot in there that you could actually tap into. So,
yeah. So let's get into, I think you had 3 types of sort of limiting money beliefs, right? Or limiting money mindsets. Can you go over that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was a study conducted in Kansas State University by, I think it was Dr. Britt and Dr. Klontz. But anyways, the point is that the 3 main ones, the first one is money avoidance. And I'll get into them in more detail, but the overview is money avoidance. The second one is money worship. And then the last one is money status. And that's what we're talking about right now. But so let's go to the first one. Money avoidance, what that really means is that you have that money has a negative connotation in your world, in your belief system. You struggle. There's this conflict between, I really want this thing, but then a part of you feels like, oh, if I get these things and it starts to load up, and then the labels come in. I'll be a greedy bastard. I'll be selfish. I'll be, incongruent and all these different things.
Yeah,
right?
Inauthentic,
right? So that's the very first one. And and it's interesting because it's almost like if you were raised in a low to middle income household, this is the one that you struggle with the most, because that's the one I struggled with the most, right? So for your listeners, that might resonate with them. And so the second one is money worship. And so that could also come from your economic status as you grow up, because if you don't have money, then you idolize it, right? Or you feel like there will never be enough of it. And so that's what the money worship mindset is all about, is you feel that money's over everything. You can't have enough of it. And then that creates this very, very competitive nature within you. And that's what you're talking about. Like, there's only so much to give, right? And so you're like hoarding it. So you're worshiping it.
When I see, if I can interrupt there, I see a bunch of men that have that mindset, that their whole identity, their very masculinity is wrapped up in how much they're making, or, what the last company they sold was worth, and so this hyper competitiveness leads to a lack of collaboration, lack of cooperation, which hurts you in other areas.
Absolutely, right. So for the audience here, as you can start to unravel this, you see that this core belief of like scarcity, there's not enough to go around, it'll start to layer on these different areas of life, business or partnerships or collaborations. And that's why, as John and I discovered, this is a very important topic to really explore and we'll get into some of the details, but to sit down and go through that.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I interrupted. The third one.
The third one is, so we talked about money avoidance, money worship. The last one is money status. And this is more so relating to the status of what money could bring you. So for instance, you buy certain goods, maybe that luxury car or whatever it is, that luxury vacation, just so that you can impress people, right? Instagram, social media, right? Yeah, it's the status. And it's funny because and the image I used in my slide deck, there's this guy with the tattoos of like Louis Vuitton and these different things, right? So so this is the thing, right? For the next generation leaders, they're growing up seeing their favorite artist, this has always been the case, but now I feel like even more so it's highlighted. They're talking about a certain brand, or if you don't have this, then you're not cool, or you're not in, right? And so they're starting to indirectly inherit this money status belief, where it's like, oh, if I don't have this brand name clothes or these certain things, I won't be good enough. I won't fit in. I won't be loved. And that's where
I see that going down to like middle school students, where I talk to middle school students and they're like, yeah, dude, I got these cool Gucci slides. And I'm like,
right.
Fun. Like, you need Gucci slides?
Right.
Take it up to the higher ends. And I know people that, like, one guy's got a, $80 million yacht, and he's not satisfied with it after a year or two because he has friends that have $150 million yacht. So by comparison, that yacht is less than now. So if you don't get a handle on these things, they really negatively impact your happiness and satisfaction with life, I would argue.
Absolutely. And Tony Robbins talks a lot about the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. And so that is a great example of what does the art of fulfillment mean, is that the science of achievement, we all know, set goals, work towards them, pivot. It's the science of it, the mechanics. Okay, we get that, how to make money, stuff like that. But the art of how to feel good, right? How to evolve. I mean, even to your podcast, right? How to really level up our happiness levels, fulfillment levels, and excitement levels, joy, and all these passion, right? Because that is an art. You really have to mold it, and it has to be you. What makes you happy? So yeah, comparing will tear you down. If you're constantly comparing, it will tear. And this is another part also, is when you compare to like your potential, or you judge yourself. Like if you constantly say, well, yeah, I did this, but it wasn't good enough. Right? Let's say this podcast airs, and then I go back, and if I have a scarcity mindset, I'll be like, judge. I'll be judging this. I'll be judging that. Look at this. Look at that. That's scarcity, because you're like, oh, I wasn't enough.
Well, and one of the counters to that in positive psychology, which I love, it's really simple, but it's the mantra and the idea of settle for good enough. It's a really good way to slip away at perfectionism, because perfectionism and hyper-competitiveness, they want you to be the best in everything against everyone. And it's a really merciless way to live. And the one thing about perfectionism that I can guarantee you is that if you're living with perfectionism, it guarantees your misery in life, because you're never enough. You're never, kind of stacking up to anything, because there's always going to be someone, that gets a better math score, or gets paid more, or has a, better Porsche. Yeah.
And so even to that point also, it goes in line with that, right? The art of fulfillment. You'll master the art of achievement. The science of achievement, because that will drive you. It will drive you, because you're like, I want to be better than so-and-so. I want to have more. Cool, right? You're going to get those things if you do have that drive, that passion to push forward. But then once you get to the top of them, there's this metaphor where it's like this person was climbing this building, right? And they had the ladder on the building. It was in the best position to get to the top the fastest, and they were looking around. It's like, I got the best system set up to get to the top the fastest. And so this guy gets to the very, very top, and he's excited. He's like, yes, I did it. I achieved it. And then when he gets to the top of the building, he looks around like, I just climbed the wrong building. Right? And so the metaphor there is like, you can aim to have the biggest yacht or the best, shiniest Porsche or whatever. But the thing is that what's actually going to get you there in terms of fulfillment, happiness, joy, peace, right? All these different things.
And I talk to a lot of executives that, have done it all right. They got good grades, they went to good colleges, they got married, they had kids, they made money, they got a better job, they made more money. Now they're worth $50 million, $100 million, $400 million. So they have everything material that they could want.
Right.
Like, John, I'm not happy. Like, well, yeah, you got sold a bill of goods. I mean, you bought into this dream without ever kind of considering, will this stuff make me happy? And so then we got to go through and unlearn some of that, but also learn some new skills in terms of, how do you increase happiness? How do you increase life satisfaction? How do you manage your mind and your heart?
That is very, very important.
Back to that art of fulfillment that you were speaking of.
Yeah, and it's very important, because what comes to mind is like a circle, right? You want to, for the most part, you want to be whole, right? Because let's say a big portion of this circle is material goods and all these different things, and success and money and fame and fortune or celebrity, whatever. But then there will be this piece, and that's why some people, myself, I share, in my social media all the time, that what really drove me to move away from, that 6-figure role, technology sales here in Silicon Valley, was because I felt like something was missing. I felt like, okay, I got the grades. I'm in this corporation that's,
Yeah, you went to one of the best schools in the world.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, that's beautiful, right? But and then what? And I'm 20 something, and then what, right? Or maybe you're 30 something or 50 something or whatever. And if you're asking yourself, and then what, that can create a lot of friction. And so again, the earlier you do this, the earlier you'll be able to then either pivot or, like you say, learn some of the tools to actually be happy and start to appreciate the day-to-day.
All right, so let's get into some of the examples of the particular beliefs, because those were where, to me, the rubber really met the road for me personally. Yeah. So can we go through some of those thoughts or beliefs that we have?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've already talked about a lot of them, the main ones. So, for instance, like money, like we've all heard, right? Money doesn't grow on trees. Don't talk about money. And even relating to wealthy people, rich people, like rich people are greedy. They're out of touch with reality. They're selfish, or they're manipulative, or they've gotten their wealth because of, some very bad things or whatever, bad business. And so these are types of examples. Another one for sales is that sales is what? Sales is slimy. Sales is
filthy.
Filthy. Money is filthy, right? There's these equal signs. Money equals this. Sales equals this. So for those of you listening, pause this right now and really sit down and think about, what are some of these things that are in your head, in your mind, in your soul, where you're like, yeah, actually, for me, money does equal this right now. And you could then do something about it to shift it. But yeah, those are some of the beliefs. Money's sales is sleazy. It's manipulative. I'm not a great salesperson. I'm not a natural born salesperson. What are some other ones? Money is the root of all evil, right? So those are the ones that are very common that we tend to run into. And like I said, those will hold you back from really pushing forward.
I was just looking at my notes from your mastermind. Money will corrupt you. It's not okay to talk about money.
Yep.
You should live modestly for a good life.
Yeah.
Wanting money makes you greedy. Rich people are entitled or spoiled.
Right.
The wealthy are condescending. You can't be rich or humble or spiritual simultaneously. Sales beliefs. I should give away products for free or discounted. If I charge too much, others won't be able to afford it. Raising prices is unethical and unfair. It's wrong for you to get paid for the work you do.
Right.
I'm a better person if I give away valuable advice for free.
Right. Another one also that I remember is getting paid for doing work you love is not right.
Right.
And so that one's like big, especially if we're talking about coaching, this industry of like, I want to help this certain niche that I'm really passionate about. Then if you have that belief inside of you, it will affect your performance and your success, because you will be holding back, right? Scarcity. Like, I'm not gonna give my all.
And one of the things that I encountered when I first started in this field was underestimating or undervaluing the worth of what I was sharing in terms of ideas. Because how do you put a dollar price on an idea?
Yes.
It's quite nebulous and vague. And yet, to me, there's nothing more valuable than finding ways to be happier and more satisfied with life. So, if you've got all the money and you've got all the toys and you're still not happy, how much is it worth to someone to teach them to be happier?
Yes, absolutely. And, even this was a really great example that changed my mindset when I was starting off. And the coach's name is Rich Litvin, and he has a book called A Prosperous Coach. And in there, he talks about, listen, if you are for instance, you're a psychologist or maybe a coach or a therapist, or you're a healer of sorts, right? We're talking about this type of business. If someone were to just talk to a lamppost, and let's say they were delusional in that moment and they thought that this lamppost was this, huge, spiritual figure that was just looking down at them in the night, right? And they're illuminated, so they feel like they're in this wonderful presence. And then this person starts to talk to the lamppost and starts to tell them all these things, and the lamppost is just standing there, but in their eyes, they feel like it's a spiritual figure just looking down at them like this. That person will receive so much value. Why? Because there's this space there that's being held by the lamppost for the person to speak their truth, to speak their vulnerability. But listen, if you are a coach, a mentor, or a psychologist, whatever it is, where you are in this type of position to give back, to help someone with your experience, your advice, or your trainings that you've accumulated over the years, you will add more value than the freaking lamppost. Mm-hmm. Right? So don't worry about, am I good enough? Do I have enough experience? Listen, just by holding the space, just by being there and listening attentively and actually caring, because here's the difference. If you're talking to someone and you're coaching someone, but you're in here in your head like, geez, what should I say next? Oh no, will I have the good answer? What if I tell them the wrong answer, right? That will then cause this self-fulfilling prophecy, because you're not connected. You're disconnected from the conversation and from actually feeling.
Yeah, I would say in that moment, you're not present. You're not fully there. And, one of the ideas that I love that I've held on to since I was like in my early 20s is this notion that if people could share the entirety of their story to another person without judgment, they would be free of their story.
Wow.
That's hugely powerful. And
I got chills. Yeah.
And it's like nobody does that for us because we always are, wait, Luis, I got to tell you about, you said this made me think about that. Hold on. And so we'll interrupt and we interject and we get excited and we get anxious and we get uncomfortable, whatever it is. Right. And we have to put our own piece on it, our own spin. And so I think just the act of listening in and of itself and being present is immensely powerful. And then kind of as, I love the lamppost metaphor, whatever you can add beyond that.
Yeah, it's going to be big. So that really helped me because I was coming from a perfectionist mindset. And here's the thing, when you are operating from that scarcity of I don't have enough information, enough experience, enough value, then it will cause you to do things that will delay your success because then you're going to want to consume. Oh, well, let me take this other training. Let me watch this YouTube video instead of what? Reaching out to people, going to networking events, building your program, right? So for all of you watching that are in this industry, or even if you're not, right? When you have these limiting beliefs, that's what I mean, that they will distract you or delay you from the ultimate goal because you'll think that what's right is to do these other things, but what actually is happening is you're delaying your success because your limiting beliefs are literally limiting you.
Well, and let me interject something else there because I was talking with Kirsten McKenna, who's a leadership person in Australia yesterday, and we were talking about, she's big into positive psychology, and to me it's, the beliefs is a big part of it, but there's an emotional piece to it as well. And as you were saying that, I was thinking, because I've been there, like when I first started psychology, I remember being like an intern and just thinking, oh my God, like I don't know anything, like how am I going to help these people? And that was largely anxiety driven. There was a fear of not being enough, a fear of not knowing enough. And to an extent, I really didn't know enough. You never do when you first get thrown in. But, be aware for those that are listening that there's a huge emotional component to this that drives those beliefs. Yeah. Like I'm not enough. Maybe just the anxiety behind it can drive that belief of I'm not enough. I shouldn't charge this much. I'm not worthy. And it's all bullshit. And there are ways to get past it. So let's flip to that one and just stay on the beliefs track. And can you go over some of the ways to counter these limiting money beliefs? Yeah,
absolutely. So with this training that you went through, that's part of the process. So for all of you that are again realizing that there's a lot to be to dig up, this is the process that you guys should go to, right? So the first thing is you have to allow within you the space to say and acknowledge that there is some work to be done, right? Because if you're entering this activity with the mindset of like, I'm good, right? Like, I know this, I know it, right? And so that's what's going to block you from actually receiving the shift, because we're talking about a paradigm shift from these beliefs that have been within you for 20, 30, whatever, 40 years to now all of a sudden, whoa, wait, money doesn't grow on trees, but that actually doesn't matter, or sales isn't slimy and sleazy, right? And so again, you have to give yourself that opportunity to say, okay, you know what? There's work that needs to be done. Let me open up the space. Let me do this. Step one, allowing, acknowledging, having the awareness. Step two is what I was talking about earlier is if you feel you discovered through this podcast that there are some equal signs next to money that on the other side are negative, like money equals filth or greed, or right? What are some other ones? There's just a ton of them, right? Money is scarce. Money equals scarce. And so, or sales equals manipulation, or
money equals inauthenticity.
Money equals inauthenticity, or money equals I cannot be spiritual. Mm-hmm. Just sit down and start writing these out. Right. In our program, the way I did it was I gave you some examples and then I had you listen so that you could say this one, this one, this one. And so it speeds it up, but the point is still the same.
Well, can I jump in there? Because one of the things that was really helpful in the mastermind group was it was hard for me to come up with all of the things that I had limiting beliefs. Right. So to have others contribute theirs, I think was really helpful.
Powerful. That was very powerful.
Oh, yeah. Like I didn't even think of that one.
Yeah, that's very powerful.
The group was really helpful, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me see if I can pull up my notes real quick here. So here, I'll do this for you guys. I won't spend too much time because I mean, if you remember, that was a pretty long activity. But
Right.
here are some ideas, right? So I'll run through it. So some money beliefs that may be negative. Money will corrupt you. It's the root of all evil. More money, more problems. It's not okay to talk about money with others. Asking for money is filthy. You should live a very modest life if you want to be a good person. I may not like myself or who I'll become if I have money. I don't deserve a lot of money. I'm not worth it. You're either born into money or you get lucky, right? So there's all these different beliefs around money that we're grown into. There's never enough money to go around for everyone. And some of them relating to rich people include having or wanting lots of money will make you a greedy person. Rich people are entitled. They're spoiled brats. Wealthy people are condescending. You can't be rich and humble and spiritual at the same time. Some of the ones that we've covered. I don't trust rich people, right? Or I don't trust wealthy people. Rich people don't understand how others have to struggle. And then lastly, the other piece here was sales. Right? If you are a business owner or if you are a sales professional of sorts or any, even relating to influence or persuasion, here are some of them, right? So like I should give away my products for free or give deep discounts. That's the one that you talked about, right? Especially for new entrepreneurs, we feel that you aren't good enough yet, so therefore you have to give your stuff away for free, or that if you do charge a lot, that will make you a bad person because you're doing what you love. How could you? How dare you charge that much money, right? And so those are actually some of the thoughts that I had, that my clients have, that will prevent you from pushing forward. Some other ones here is like, I can't raise my prices. That's unethical and unfair to my clients, right? But that's part of business. Instead of focusing on the prices, focus on the value that's going to be added, right? You're a better person if you give valuable advice for free. And the last one here is, like I said, it's wrong to get paid for doing work that you love. And so that's the second step in this activity is really sit down and come up with 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 of them on your own, in your own words. Maybe your dad or mom or somebody in your upbringing had a special phrase that stuck with you that then became a belief.
When I do think a lot of these beliefs come from our family of origin.
Yeah,
like you pick them up without any awareness, right? They're just part of the environment that you grow up in. And there are a lot of assumptions that we make based on things that we saw or heard as a child. So to really sit and kind of ponder this for a few days, I think it's a good use of time.
Absolutely, because again, you're really digging into seeing what is actually the truth. And a belief is something that is an idea that you're absolutely certain about because it was normal for you, right? And that's what you saw. So that's what you thought everybody else also thought, felt, or believed in. So that's the second step. And naturally, the third step is the counter, right? The counter. What's the opposite of these beliefs? If money isn't filth, what is it? If salespeople or selling isn't sleazy, what is it? Right. And so that's the chance for you to then shift. But before we get into that, this was very important for me because when my mentor told me this, it really struck me and it really jolted me to make a shift. And what he said was, listen, if you continue with these beliefs, if you continue having these beliefs around sales or money or wealth or rich people, okay, you can still have those beliefs. But just realize that you will absolutely never reach the levels of success that you are capable of, or that you dream of, or that you deserve, right? And I really want that I really want you to think about that. Because if you are operating from this belief system that the world is scarce, or that money or all these abundant and all these opportunities are scarce, like we said in these examples previously, it will deter you. It will delay you from your ultimate success. So that's kind of like the subset of step 2 is you have to recognize these are my beliefs right now, or they were, and I am done with them. I'm fed up with them because I know that if I continue with these belief systems, this list, it will hold me back because it has held me back. And you can start to think about what happens, John, what happens, Luis, if you continue to operate that way? And then what will you miss out on?
And I think these beliefs affect everything, and they affect everything with little awareness on our part because they're so close to us that they're the air we breathe, they're the water that we're in. We don't even realize that we have them, and yet they're enormously impactful of everything that we do, how much money we make, and how much successful we are. So, that first step is just to get a little bit of distance between you and that belief that you've had ever since you were a child.
Yes, absolutely. Right. So it's extracting these beliefs, putting them down on paper. And I love that. And just seeing them, recognizing like, wow, I did believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that this was the truth. And now you get the chance. And that's step 3. Go ahead.
And the other piece, I think, in that second part is, I think that even when you put them down on paper, you may still look at them and go, yeah, that's right. Like you may still believe them, and that's okay too. But understand, is this belief serving me?
There we go.
Because I would argue that none of those beliefs are serving you. And so the quicker we can get rid of them and counter them and challenge them and be aware of them, the better off, the more successful you're going to be.
Absolutely. And that's why step number 1 is very important, right? Because as you listen to this podcast and rewind it and re-listen to it, or as you do your own research, you'll start to discover that, actually there's some exploration that needs to be done. That's why step 1 is important, because you're going to allow the space to explore and to see what's going on, right? Because as you're seeing those beliefs, you probably will be like, actually, that one's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you might convince yourself otherwise. But like John's saying, believe me, those beliefs have been there for a long time. And just imagine what else could be of your life. How far could you actually get if you reframe them or shift them or shift the paradigm? So let's get into really quickly here these new beliefs.
Yes.
Right, because if you leave this space, this new space, right, because you're extracting these negative thoughts and beliefs and emotions, and now you have space for something new to come in. If you don't take this other step, new negative emotions could potentially come in because there's this space for it, right? So the third step is to start to think about or listen in on what are some examples of positive, empowering money beliefs, okay? And so here are some, right, around money. And so the first one is money is simply a vehicle. It's simply a medium of exchange, money, right? Money is simply a medium of exchange. I happen to have some money around here, right? So these little green things, if you're telling me, Luis, and this was a powerful exercise when it was done to me, you're telling me, Luis, that when your client gives you 10 of these, or eventually when you receive 1,000 of these or 1,000,000 of these green pieces of paper, or maybe virtual code that states that.
If you're listening to this on audio only, Luis is holding up $100 bills.
You're right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. So for those of you on the audio, I'm holding $100 bill. And the question that was asked to me was, are you telling me that when you receive a big stack of these, you're instantly going to become, pardon the language, but an asshole, a greedy bastard, a fucking manipulator? And then I was like, no, man, I won't. And that really hit me because I was like, damn, holy crap, that's so true. Like when I get that big stack of cash or digital or whatever, I'm not going to become this crazy person that I thought I probably would. Why? Because money actually is a magnifier, right? Because it gives you access to more. And thus, and this is something that for your audience and for all of us to really consider, if you're already a great person, a humble person, a giving person, money will only magnify that. Now, you may be surprised because you might find that money is going to start to magnify other areas of your life that you probably didn't know you had, right? And so anyways, the opportunity is always there to explore, to see how you can improve, grow, and evolve as a person.
Yeah, and let me just slow you down on that one idea because I think it's hugely powerful. The idea that whatever you are, whatever characteristics you have right now, money will magnify those. So if you're an asshole right now, you become more of an asshole. Right. But odds are you're a good person that's humble and kind and giving and trying their best and putting forth good effort. And if you are, to the extent you are, money just magnifies those characteristics, those traits. So I think that reframe is hugely powerful.
Yeah, it's absolutely powerful because we're talking about that's what I mean by a paradigm shift is you're going from an old world to a new world, right? You start to see things differently because it's true, right? Are you actually going to become this greedy person that will hoard all their money? Most likely not. And so that opens then the opportunity to say, whoa, what else? What else is true, right? And so here are some other ideas. The more value that I give in my business or otherwise, the more that I will receive. The more love that you give instead of holding it back, guess what? Most likely you will receive more because other people are going to be seeing that and they will want to reciprocate. Energy, right? The more energy I give, the more energy I get back. And here's a really cool kind of piece to this one. The more value I give, the more I can receive, and I'm okay with that. So that last part is very important because, as you said, when you're reading those limiting, disempowering beliefs, a part of you will say, but that's true, isn't it? And so by using phrases like, and I'm okay with that, or, and this is something I'm comfortable with, it will open you up to receive and allow and integrate these new beliefs. So saying something like, a large amount of money fills me up with joy, and I'm okay with that, will make you feel like, okay, I'm okay with that because it does fill me up with joy. Or like money is nothing more than a medium of exchange, and I'm okay with that. It starts to make it like doable. It's like, okay, I could do that.
I think it also starts to calm me down when I listen to you say that.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause I think there's a lot of anxiety that I've had in the past about money and a lot of fear. And, I was thinking after I did your mastermind, I was like, okay, I need to start a podcast and I need to hire a virtual assistant. So I started thinking about outlays of money, which up until that point, I was really hesitant to do because I was like, do I have enough for that? Like if I'm putting out $500 a month for a VA, like that's going to put a pinch on me. And the fear had held me back from doing that for a couple of years. So I think, again, to calm down around the idea of money, to kind of ease the anxiety is a really important idea.
Absolutely. And that's why that last part is very important. And I discovered that as I was coaching a client, because I could tell that although he was understanding it intellectually, the emotion was conflicting, right? There was anxiety, fear, doubt. And so that's why you could use that, right? Is saying, being rich could allow me to help even more people quickly, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I think part of it's learning, like even doing relaxation exercises around this idea to help calm your physiology down so that you are okay with it physiologically. And it makes me think of, one of my favorite exercises is loving kindness meditation, which is using those mantras of may I be happy, may I be healthy. And you can add your own stuff in there as well. May I be successful, may I be wealthy. And then, to kind of breathe into that and be calm, learn to be calm with it, I think is a really powerful way to go.
Absolutely. And also to add to that, this will most likely take time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So another piece also is that sometimes we want to already have it, right? It's like, damn, why do I have that old belief? Why is it still there? But it's part of the process. So doing what John is talking about will absolutely help you get into a place of just comfort and allowance where you just say, okay, yeah, that's my new truth. And I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with celebrating other people's success without feeling that it takes away from my potential to be successful as well. That's a big one, especially in business, right? If you see
jealousy.
Yeah, jealousy, right? And you're like comparing and you're like, what? But again, just because people are successful, that does not mean that it will take away from your success potential.
Well, and on that point, I like the idea, the differentiator between confidence and arrogance, where confidence is the belief that I'm awesome or I'm capable, and everyone else around me can be, awesome and capable as well. Whereas arrogance is I'm awesome and I'm capable and no one else can be as awesome. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's that differentiator of, I can be successful and wealthy, and everyone else around me can be successful and wealthy too. That, someone else's success doesn't have to negate mine or minimize mine.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to be successful, and I can be happy for their success. It also brings up the differentiator between jealousy and envy, where jealousy is, you're successful, I want your success. Envy is a little bit darker than that. Envy is you're successful. I want your success, and I don't want you to have that success.
Yeah, right. And so also, so that's fantastic, right? For those of you listening, those points are the ones to really take home. But also on top of that, man, I was going to say something around competition and jealousy, but it'll come back to me.
Oh, so yeah, competitiveness is one that I see, especially hyper competitiveness.
Yeah,
ex-athletes, and the men that I see were high level athletes. They take that into their business world or into even their relationships,
right?
And they haven't learned that competitiveness is not always the best way to go, or even usually the best way to go. Yeah. And it's funny. I was talking with William Pullen in London, whose sister is a zoologist. And she said to William, you realize one of the main traits of an alpha male in the animal kingdom? And he's like, no, what? And he said, it's the ability to cooperate and to communicate with other alpha males and get them to move in the same direction. Yeah. And he said, if you apply that to humans, that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah. But to be a real alpha male, it's not about aggression. It's not about physicality. It's not about intimidation. Right. It's about how can I get other high-level males, high testosterone males, to work with me and cooperate in the purpose or service of a common goal.
Yeah, and we don't have to go down this topic, but even when it comes down to true masculinity, what that is that you are serving beyond yourself, right? You are there to take care of your family, your business, yourself. And so that goes right in line with that, where, again, we could definitely go down that hole, but anyways, I want to bring it back to what I was going to say really quick. And it came back to me. This is the thing, right? Is that most of the times we believe that if we are going to receive a lot of money or become wealthy, become rich, that we're going to become this tyrant where we are pushing people down, stepping on people. But really, what if there's this opportunity to become a servant leader, which is to your point, right? Or to the example, the zoologist example, right? Where you can actually serve people even more, bring people up, instead of thinking that when you are this successful entrepreneur, business owner, husband, whatever it is, that automatically means that you have to be this tyrant and you crush everybody around you. It's like, sure, but not necessarily. That's not a rule. Like, you don't have to go that route. And maybe because of our upbringing, that's what we saw. It causes us to believe that's the truth. But really, there are other alternatives, such as being a servant leader, being a true alpha male, where you are serving and giving and cooperating with the people around you, so that you don't have to be this hyper competitive, envious type of person.
Well, and one of the ideas that I love that you brought up back in the mastermind was the idea that, having more money can also be viewed as having more opportunities to serve, more opportunities to get a message out, more opportunities to help out other people, more opportunities to give to charities of your choice. Like, you can use that money in really positive pro-social ways. And I think, again, these are shifts that could take a year, could take 2 years to truly make. I mean, I remember I had a real fear of speaking in public after I fell on my face at UC Berkeley at a conference on camera. It was like, not literally, but I just froze on camera. And it was like, oh shit. And it took me a couple of years to reframe that, the anxiety and fear physiologically that I felt before speaking, as this isn't fear, this is excitement. And it literally took probably 2 years to really believe that, but they're really the same, physiologically, they're the same cues. It's just, what's the cognitive interpretation that we put on those cues, and how do we best make use of them? So keep in mind, for those that are listening and want to apply this, that this could take a couple years to really master, but I'm not sure that there's much more important to do.
Yeah. And I really love what you were talking about, where this first step is awareness. From your example, when we went through this, is you just became aware. And when we become aware, it really opens up, that's what I'm saying, this gate to explore, to see, okay, how can I shift this then? If this is not something that's serving me or empowering me, how can I move to this, evolve, right? Move to this next level. And so I'll go in. I'll share with you. Maybe not all four, but I call them the 4 fearless money mindsets. And one of them is what you're talking about, where money is actually pure potential at your disposal. What does that mean? Is that, listen, if you won the lottery next year or in the next few months, wouldn't that give you the possibility to then help out your favorite charity or help out the people around you, your family members, yourself, maybe take that vacation so money is just pure potential energy that you could use. And coming back to our previous points, if you're already a good person, if you are already involved in volunteer work or being a good father or whatever it is, then that will probably just be magnified once you start to be successful, monetarily, right? So that is the biggest takeaway here is that, listen, there's this path where you don't have to hold yourself back subconsciously or otherwise, because you can shift into these different beliefs, right? Believing that money is just pure potential energy for you to grow and give. And actually, I can't help myself. The second fearless mindset, actually the third one is that business is a spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's a spiritual journey in the sense that if you want to be very successful in business, you have to give massive amounts of value, and you have to grow as a person, as a human, as a business person, right? Because where you started is not where you need to be if you really want to be that uber successful person. And so then there's this path, there's this journey of evolving, letting go of things that aren't serving you, limiting beliefs, emotional attachments, or maybe a story. And so as you're peeling these layers, and I'm imagining, just an onion just getting peeled to its core, you will then evolve into this hopefully best side of you.
Kirsten McKenna, pardon me for interrupting. Kirsten McKenna said, being an entrepreneur or running your own business is a journey back to yourself.
I love that.
And I think that just having that idea or that framework of, I'm going to learn everything that I can about myself and use that to make the best business possible and give as much value back to the people as possible. I think that's a really good frame for being an entrepreneur.
And it's totally opposite to what some people perceive business as, is hyper competition, knocking people down. And sure, there are some instances where that is the case, but you don't have to be that if you don't want to. And most likely you aren't that type of person anyways. But also what I wanted to say is that because you're growing and you're giving, it's also a journey of joy. Right? Because compare them, right? Who will be more joyful? This person that believes that actually business it could be a spiritual journey and could give more and could grow and could evolve, or this other one that's like, oh no, business is, I need to be this hard ass and I can't talk to anybody and collaborate, right? So
that's another limiting belief. More money leads to unhappiness.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the ones.
Whew. Wow. Okay. So this has been an amazing interview. So thank you so much for sharing this information with me.
Absolutely.
I really, really appreciate it.
Yes.
So any questions that I should have asked you that I did not? Anything you would like to add?
I think we covered a lot. And so just to finalize, because we were going through the 4 steps, right? So just to summarize, I just want to cover that is, so the first thing is allow yourself to really be open to exploring. That's really what this is. Second thing, list out, go back and re-listen to this, list out what are some of the limiting beliefs around money, sales, and wealth. Give yourself the chance to realize, holy crap, I need to move away from that. Third step is come up with new empowering beliefs. We've talked a lot about what they are. And then the fourth step is again, allowing yourself, as we've been saying, either meditate or take new actions. Because really, listen, a lot of people say, oh, I'll donate when I have that money, right? Or I'll do this when this other thing happens. And we've experienced in life, that tends to not happen, right? And so it's best to just go for it. Listen, if you donate $5 to your local charity, it'll still feel good, right? And you're doing it now. You're not waiting 10 years from now or whatever. So whatever it is that you really want to do, that now you're starting to think, wow, if I can view as business as a spiritual journey, or I can view money as pure potential, that will allow you to take new decisions. So the fourth step is actually using some of these new beliefs, taking action, right? Versus just like saying, cool podcast, we'll listen to the next episode. No, actually use this stuff, right? It'll work. It'll change. It'll shift your perspective.
Do something with it.
Yes.
So, yeah, Luis, so if there's young entrepreneurs or young leaders that want to get in touch with you, want to find out more about, working with you about this money mindset, yes, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very active on Facebook. You can look me up. It's Luis G. Noriega T. I'm sure the links will be out somewhere.
Yes, I'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah, or on Instagram at Luminary Louis. And actually, a side note, when you do get to that level of believing that business is a spiritual journey, sometimes what you could do that can help you, it's an added tip here, is come up with an identity, a nickname, right? That part of you that you're like, yes, that's the one I want to tap into. For me, I have various ones, but one of them is luminary, like a luminary, a light that's guiding the way, someone to look up to, a role model. And so that's why my Instagram name is Luminary Louis. And so again, for those of you that are on this podcast, come up with a name. What is a cool nickname? Like, okay, once I've listed all my negatives and I've adopted all my positive beliefs, who will this person be? And come up with a nickname, because for me, it's either King Louis or Luminary Louis, or just this very positive, vibrant identity and nickname.
Yeah,
and for you guys, that'll help you a lot.
That's a great tip. I mean, even Beyonce came up with, was it Sasha Fierce, to overcome her stage fright, her anxiety. And so it's a really powerful idea. There was someplace else. Luminary Louis is spelled Luminary Lui. So just if you want to check out Luis on Instagram, Luminary followed by Lui.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much, Luis. This was fantastic. I think this is
absolutely
really valuable information.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing with us.
I love this.
Appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Talk soon.
Right.
Thank you for listening to the Evolved Caveman podcast. If you like what you've heard, support us by subscribing, leaving reviews, and sharing the podcast with friends and colleagues. For the latest, most powerful tools to connect with like-minded men, join the Facebook group at The Evolved Caveman. Follow Dr. John on Instagram at The Evolved Caveman, all one word, or join the email list by visiting guidetoself.com.